Hi, y'all, and welcome. My name is Brett, and today I'm going to be talking with y'all about rainbow capitalism. So, why am I here talking with y'all about rainbow capitalism? Well, for me, as a gay man, this topic comes pretty close to my heart. So, I would love to share my perspective on rainbow capitalism. And then I would love to hear from y'all. If you find this topic interesting, if you like this video, if you hate this video, if you just want to have a discussion, please feel free to comment and I'll shoot you a comment back. And I just want to open this up for dialogue and really get into it with y'all. So, just to go over what I'm going to be doing today, I want to take a brief moment to define what rainbow capitalism is, how corporations and us by proxy engage in rainbow capitalism. Why does rainbow capitalism is it a thing? How do contradictions exist within rainbow capitalism? And overall, should we stop participating in rainbow capitalism? If so, how do we stop? So, firstly, what is rainbow capitalism, right? So you can think of rainbow capitalism on kind of two fronts. One, it is companies producing local policies, so within company policies, such as gender and sexuality, equity within the workplace policies. And two, producing merchandise tailored and targeting LGBT individuals, right? These are the two main components of how they invest in the rainbow part of rainbow capitalism. Then, at the same time, you have the companies investing in anti-LGBT, legislation and politicians. So there was something called the Human Rights Campaign Index that came out in 2020 that demonstrated how certain companies have a high index where they have a culture that is friendly to LGBT plus individuals, yet at the same time, they've donated more than $10 million to anti LGBT politicians and legislation. So, how does this happen? How do we engage in it? How do corporations engage in it? Well, you can see, firstly, by Xfinity, how they've donated nearly $1.1 million to 149 different Congress people who have a zero in the Human Rights Campaign Index, meaning that even though Xfinity themselves score 100 on the Human Rights Campaign Index, they donate to politicians who have helped develop anti-LGBT legislation, such as anti-trans bills in Texas and Florida. And you also have Walmart as another example, with them creating a product called the Pride and Joy section, where they have rainbow t-shirts and pronoun t-shirts and other types of apparel. But yet at the same time, they've donated to over 120 politicians with a zero on the HRC index. These aren't the only companies. Some other companies that do this that you may know are Walmart, Google, Verizon, Amazon, Home Depot, Wells Fargo, Chevron, uh, Deloitte, and United Health. These are just some of many companies that participate in this, and this is not an exhaustive list. But there are, according to a study, 25 companies that have engaged in this type of rainbow capitalism. And they've donated around over $10 million to anti LGBT politicians and ultimately legislation. So, why does this matter, right? Why sell to the queer community if you're just going to target the queer community? Well, according to a 2021 US Census, the LGBT plus community has contributed over $1.4 trillion in spending power to the US economy alone, right? So you can see how companies want to profit off of this $1.4 trillion cash cow that is known as our community. Yet, where does this contradiction come in? Why then donate to anti LGBT legislation? Well, I'm going to take a page out of David Harvey's book. the enigma of capital and discuss how capital accumulation, just briefly, works, how limits and barriers operate, and why this pertains to us and rainbow capitalism. Well, firstly, how does the process of capital accumulation work? Well, first you got to have money, right? And then you take that money and labor and you turn it into labor and means of production. You take this labor and means of production and you put it to work by giving it technology and a form of organization. All of this together will then create a commodity, which then you sell for then you sell back for money plus a profit. And then you take that part of that profit and reinvest into the capital, right? So that's just a brief overview of how capital accumulation works, right? But what happens when you create too much surplus and there's nothing to soak up the surplus absorption, right? You have this essentially a limit to where capital can't grow anymore. Well, in order for capital to keep growing past this limit, it has to, according to Harvey, take this limit, turn it into a barrier, right? So, how we can see this in rainbow capitalism happening is the limit of surplus, taking it and then using anti-LGBT legislation to fund it and turn it into a barrier. Now you have anti-LGBT laws and policies in place to where now you have to have advocates that come out and say, we are not going to hide that we can be ourselves without fear, right? So in order to do this, you then have to purchase, right? So you can see how essentially these corporations, when engaging in rainbow capitalism, are giving out this disease and then selling the cure, right? So they're setting the grounds with the anti-LGBT legislation in order for us to then rebuy or buy up their excess surplus, absorb that surplus, and continue their growth under capitalism. So, are we going to choose to stop this, right? Is this cycle of absorbing excess surplus for the sake of companies' growth, while at the same time them targeting our community, is this something that we would like to keep participating in? If no, then what does liberation look like? What does it mean for queer liberation and not rainbow capitalism, right? How can we achieve this? Well, according to Harvey, this perpetual growth in and of itself within capitalism is not sustainable. Capitalism cannot keep on growing endlessly, especially with a limited earth, limited supply, limited labor, right? So, in order for us to have liberation, is to step outside of capitalism. And to many, this looks like socialism, communism, anarchism, other types of outside the box or outside of the capitalist framework, if you will, thinking, right? And this is not something that can be decided by Harvey, Marx, or any one author. This is something decided by you and I, right? Fellow queer people, we're the ones that are going to be building the pathway to community and liberation. What does liberation look like for us? How do we step outside of capitalism? And that's where I open up to y'all and would enjoy your thoughts and discourse. How do you think we should stop participating in rainbow capitalism? How can we stop? Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day.